Good day and welcome back. Today I am going to talk about how to do up a cinch. I know some of you are thinking, what the heck do we need to hear that for? I already know how to do up a cinch. Well, not everybody does, and for a lot of reasons. And, well, maybe you're new to horses altogether. Maybe you're new to the Western discipline. Well, speaking for myself, that's kind of what happened to me is when I first learned to ride, I started off with an English saddle, and when I bought my first Western saddle, I had absolutely no idea how to do that thing up properly. And well, there's also a lot of variations to how you can do it too. So I thought we'd run through a few of them and see what we can show you. I'm pretty sure this video will not be exhaustive. There will be other little tips and tricks that others will show you along the way that might be helpful, or maybe things to avoid, who knows. But I'll throw a saddle on this guy here and see what we can show you. Okay, this is actually going to be a little bit of a tricky one because for much of what I'm going to be doing, I'm probably going to be in your way and you aren't going to be able to see real good. So I will explain as I go. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this fender back out of the way so you can see the D-ring. Well, this one isn't a D-ring, it's just a round ring, but on some saddles it'll be a D. Sometimes it'll be slot in the skirt. A lot of variations of that thing. But this here is my Latigo. Now, they come generally in two different materials, either leather or nylon. This one's nylon. I prefer these ones. They're a little lighter, a little more flexible. Common concern about them is some people think they don't stay tied up as well as the leather ones if you tie. I've never found that to ever be a concern. They always stay tied up just fine. And one of the advantages of the nylon ones is that if you ever need extra holes in them anywhere, it's very easy to put a hole in this stuff. You just take a large nail or something of that nature and heat it up good and hot with a little torch or something and just melt holes anywhere that happens to be convenient for you, because they only have a short segment on them that actually has holes in them. I'll get to that because, well, for me, that's a bit of a problem. I'm going to come over to this side for a second and let my cinch down, which is usually hanging up on the other side of your saddle. Now, first thing you're going to want to do is let this one down. Now, one of the things that I like to do, some people take and go round, 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 round. I don't do that. I just take the thing, and this really isn't about doing up the cinch, but more about storing your cinch, is I just take the cinch and I'll take about that much, approximately. Just feed it up through here. Hang on to the bottom of it so it doesn't keep coming. Loop it around like that. So you got two long loops hanging down, one on each side. And then I just tie it like that and you're done. And when the time comes that you got to use the thing, you don't even actually have to untie it. You can actually leave it right there. Just take your loose tail end, grab your cinch, feed it through and pull, and it comes off. Very simple. Most people will actually go round, round, round. I used to, till I learned this one, and works way better. He's good. You have to stand there, sir. I'm sorry, but you have to stand still for a bit here. Okay. Thank you. No, don't back up. You don't want to. We want to keep you centered on the camera. This is professional cinematography here. Oh, right there. Good boy. Now, in doing up your cinch, one of the things you do is, first off, bring it up gentle. Don't yank on the thing. Now, the first time I saw one of these things, I thought, why in the heck is it so dang long? It hangs on the ground, and these holes are nowhere near this piece on the cinch that is a buckle that's supposed to... What's wrong with this thing? Well, let me explain. Because one of the things I did not realize is you go through more than once. Twice is how often you go through. So you go through the ring again, and you go through your cinch a second time. And then you bring it up. And now this is the point where you would normally lock it in to the buckle with those holes. Well, that doesn't exactly work for me because I use a 36-inch cinch. Okay, something's not right here today. Seems to be something's not sitting quite right. See if we can get this working right here. There we go. I use a 36-inch cinch, and once I've got it up to the proper tension, I'm actually past the holes because I use a long cinch. They have a fairly long section of holes that you can use, and depending on the length of cinch that you use, because they come in different lengths, that will generally put you where the holes are. Now, if you really want to use that buckle, well, and you don't want to change your cinch, because these things cost money, anywhere from $60 to $100. Well, you can actually spend a lot more than that too, but I believe I paid about $80 for this one. It's a half decent one. But I don't worry too much about it. But if you're actually kind of determined to use a hole in this buckle, this is where I said with the nylon ones, the advantage is it's pretty easy to make another hole in here. The only thing I find is that with hole spacing on them, you got to actually pull up past where the ideal tension would be in order to be able to get into the hole and then let it back down and loosen it off, and that might be a little annoying to the horse. Now, for me, I don't care. It doesn't bother me one little bit because I don't use that buckle. Actually, I do on my other saddle because it just happens to work out on that one because of the rigging and such, that it actually does end up where the holes are. But what I tend to do is I tie mine, and this is a fairly common practice. And there's actually a couple of ways of doing this. I'll talk about some of them. I can't show you on this saddle, but we just go through again. But instead of going back down into the cinch, we just go around like this. See, we're making a loop here. We're going to come back into the ring again and put the tail through that loop and then pull it down like that. And actually, it was interesting. I just saw a thing on Facebook. Said it took them until today years to realize that a cinch is tied exactly the same as a man's tie is. The knot is exactly the same. Now, I'll talk about a couple of other things. Is what some people do if they got a rather thin horse and they got lots of this stuff left, is they'll actually go around 3 times. Now, I don't like that because when you try tightening it up, it just bunches up. 2 seems to be the happy medium. Acts like a pulley system. So with only 2 loops through, you've got enough leverage. You can get it as snug as it needs to be. 3 creates a bit of a problem. 1 is definitely not enough. Doesn't work well. 2 times around. That's the secret. And like I said, if you really want to use this buckle and the holes don't line up, you can always make another one. If the holes do line up, you're golden. You can use the buckle if you want. And then most saddles will have something up here similar to what this one has back here. I don't know why it's back there on this one. And that's take this extra you have hanging down instead of having it hanging down like that. You take that and you just take the end of it, stick it through there like that, only that would actually be up there. I don't know why this one's back here. I suppose I probably could use it the same way if I actually went underneath like that. I could probably do it. Anyhow, well, I'll get to something else too, is one alternate method of tying, but I can't really show you. I can explain a bit. And personally, I find it a little confusing and a little extra concern that just is what we'll do is we'll go through the ring and go towards the back. And then if your saddle is equipped with the rear latigo holder, or not latigo, fitting for a rear cinch, like a rear D-ring or whatever they use. That varies from saddle to saddle. You'd actually run through there and tie it on there. But that's a little more work, and you always got to make sure it goes under the fender. And I just prefer doing it this way. Like I said, you just run it through. You can bring it up. First you go around twice, Make sure, and when you're tightening it up, make sure everything's sitting in place. Because you saw at the beginning there, it wasn't working right for me. I knew it wasn't right because I always go past the holes on it, and I wasn't going past the holes, so something wasn't sitting right. I just had to wiggle it around a little bit and shift it in place, and that's another reason that I don't like messing with those. Is it's easier to retighten and take up a tiny bit at a time by just tying it. So after you've gone around twice, remember that one, twice, not 3 times, not once, twice. That's the happy medium. And once you've gone around twice, you can take it, you just go in, you go off to the side with it, like that. Make that loop I talked about. Then you go in the back, you bring it out and down through your loop. And then you just tighten it up, and that's not going anywhere. And the only thing you got to watch on, if you got a leather latigo, as the horse sweats and it warms up and gets moist, it will stretch out. And you might have to actually stop and just give it a little tug and make sure it's tightened up. And then pull on this one, and then you can pull this one down, and there you go. It's tight again. So just thought I'd show you that because, like I said, if you're not familiar with these particular ones, and you might have a problem. I did, and I know other people. I've seen the way they do them. But, like I said, there's probably more than one way to tie. I know, like I said, I've seen guys, where it goes back and gets tied at the back. Some people use the buckle. I don't. This is just my way of doing it. I got nothing against using the buckle. I use the buckle on my other one because it just happens to work out that way. In fact, I think that one actually has a couple extra holes put into it from the previous owner of it. So it actually does work, even with a bigger cinch on it. But my preference, I just tie. It's quite secure, even though some people think it's not. That knot will never let go. It's relatively easy to undo. You can just pull it like that, and it comes undone. And yet, at the same time, if it's done up like that, the cinch itself is not going anywhere. Cautionary message, too, is now this particular cinch, I'll show you something on it, which I'm going to have to undo it. Hope he doesn't go anywhere. This one actually has, this is a fairly good one, actually. Fairly well made. And on the end of it, it's actually got a roller on it. And you have to be careful you don't over-tighten. Always slip your hand in and see how tight it is after you're done. Because with the roller in there, it's easy to over-tighten. And there are actually some that actually have a second roller. So when you go around the second time, you go over the second roller. And man, you can really tighten those ones up. And it's very, very easy to actually over-tighten them. I've always said with those double roller ones that if you're not careful, you could cut your horse in half. But if you have limited upper body strength or something like that, not a bad idea. They do make it much easier to snug it up. So those are some of the things that I wanted to show you. So depending on the type of cinch you're using will determine how hard you pull on it. Go around once. Go around twice, and I always like to pull up on the first one as I pull on the second one. Makes it a little easier, just flows a little nicer that way. And once we get her up to about where we want her, then we go through, make our little loop, go in the back there. You can rewatch this video several times over to see how I did that. But there you go, ready to go. And just make sure your fender's back over top of it like that. Different saddles. I got my other one. I actually have to take this thing and put it right up over the horn to expose the D-ring because of where it is and the width of the fender and everything. So, yeah. Anyhow, like I said, I'm sure there's lots of things about cinches I'm leaving out that you could probably would be useful information, but I think that gets you the basics. You go around twice. You can either use the buckle or you can tie the knot. Take your choice. Those are the two most common ones. Running back to the rear cinch hole and or D-ring and tying it there. That's not as common. I haven't seen that done too often. If you got a bit of tail hanging down, it's not a big deal on some saddles, though. You may end up with a lot, in which case this little holder here which is usually up there. Well, you just take your extra and you stuff it through there, and it'll keep it up like that. And if it's particularly long, it'll keep it from dangling way down. And in the case of this one, it's up short enough, it really doesn't matter. Not too concerned about that. On the other saddle, I actually use that one because it's just the way things work out. It does hang down further. But anyhow, there you go. I hope that helps you out a bit. Like I said, at the beginning, I'm sure there's lots of people that are probably going to go, oh, would you bother doing that for? Well, there are people that need to know. So, and when I first started out, you'd be surprised how few people were willing to share the information, as simple as that. So, there you go, how to do up a Western cinch. English ones, I think they're actually a little easier in some respects because, you can kind of figure it out just by looking at them. They got buckles on both sides. You just go back and forth between the two sides, do it up a notch or two on each one, and eventually you get them all tightened up evenly as far as they can go, and you're done. These, they're not as obvious as to how they go, so maybe a little instruction might be helpful. So there you go. Hope that was helpful to you, how to do up a cinch. Have a good day.